I do, and that is to journal. As I reach to work, I have a tendency of sitting at my desk and journaling. And today, the word that I'd like to share with you was just so on point. It came from Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10. And it said, God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love that you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. Right? And so that brings me to the focus that I would like to share with you today. I wear a lot of hats, and as I walked here, I was greeted by two individuals that are very dear to my heart. Dr. Wilkinson was my student teacher supervisor. So when I was attending the University of the Virgin Islands, he was the one that helped me become a master teacher. He would come in and supervise, and I would forever be grateful to him. As I graduated UVI, Mr. Glenn Smith was our AFT Local 1825 Union President. So I was able to become a first-year teacher under Glenn Smith presidency as our president of AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. And just as I was getting settled in my chair, I see my classmate, Monique, who her and I used to take classes at UVI, and it only goes to show you we live in 32 square miles and we're all connected. As Tanya said, we're great friends for many years. And again, her children come. So the Virgin Islands is interconnected, our families, friends, foes, we're all interrelated as one. Either I know you because I've worked with you, I went to school with you, your children I've taught, or you're a cousin of a friend of a friend of a friend. And in the midst of that, I've had the distinct pleasure of being able to work with children, adults, seniors. Currently, I serve as the director of the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families at the Department of Human Services. That's one half. I also work along with Monique in another nonprofit agency that is called VIARC, the Virgin Islands Agency for Restorative Care, that provides counseling and outreach to youth here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And in addition to that, I also provide consultation and parenting classes to incarcerated parents. I designed a program called Parenting Inside Out because as a school administrator during my time and my tenure over at the Department of Education, I had the opportunity of serving as the director of the alternative program, Edith Williams. And in working with those students, I used to share with my students, 3 things will happen to you by the time you meet me. 1, you're either going to change your outlook and really take heed in terms of the interventions that we're giving you. 2, if you don't change your behavior, modify your behavior, I will see you in jail. Or 3, if you do not change your behavior and end up in jail, I will collect your booklet. Because on my desk as a school administrator, I used to collect funeral booklets. And right now, the head count is 199 funeral booklets of teenagers right here in our community that have died to gun violence. So what has that led me to do is to really start looking at the situation that if we could not save them at the front end, and unfortunately that has led them to be incarcerated, now we're dealing with issues that those incarcerated parents have left behind children that have also been impacted by their incarceration. And that those incarcerated parents also need support when they reintegrate back into our community. And how is it that we, a small community such as ours, 32 square miles, we're probably the size of Disney, and we fit into the Dominican Republic 652 times. How do we break those cycles? And Parenting Inside Out is an evidence-based program that we've been doing now for 3 cycles at the Bureau of Corrections. Every single Monday and Wednesday nights, that's where you find me, working along with our incarcerated parents. I hold groups every Monday and every Wednesday nights with individuals that people question me and ask me, aren't you afraid to go into that jail and sit with them and lock yourself up in that room? And I say to myself, and I tell them, no, I'm not. I know what they're in for. And they're not gonna hurt me. Because a lot of the people that I come in contact with, I've had them as students. And that's the sad part. So what do we do to change these cycles? One of the things that we've been focusing on during the course of this Parenting Inside Out program is providing parents the necessary skills to be able to strengthen their family bonds, that even though they're incarcerated right now, they're still able to break the cycle and keep that connection going with their families. Sometimes in our community, we have the tendency of kind of shunning people off, right? But it can happen to any one of us. You understand? Any one of us can make an ill decision at any given moment that lands us up at the Bureau of Corrections. We all know someone that has made a poor choice and subsequently now are in jail. And it is our responsibility to kind of change that cycle. And one of the things that the program lends itself to is strengthening family bonds. Because when a parent gets sentenced, a child does as well. And how do we change those cycles? We are advocates, along with the director and the case managers at the Bureau of Corrections, to maintain that family line open. For the very first time this past summer, the Bureau of Correction held what they call Family Day. There was a family that had not seen each other for the past 4 years. The mother had been incarcerated. When she gave birth to her last child, she had left her child months old. By the time she saw that child again this past summer, the child was already 4 going on 5. Those children, their father was also in jail. So the cycle and the separation was impacting those children negatively in school. And so therefore the cycle has a tendency of repeating itself. And so we wanted to build the bridge where families were able to heal. Issues that we normally don't talk about, that are swept under the rugs, will be able to be addressed. Our community needs healing, and a lot of times we don't like to talk about issues. And so Parenting Inside Out brings those issues out to light. We collaborate with the University of the Virgin Islands, my proud alma mater. I am a firm believer that to one which much is given, much is expected. And I'm a proud product of the University of the Virgin Islands. So the University of the Virgin Islands UVI-CEL program has what we call a Reentry program. And the Reentry program, I encourage you, we meet every third Thursday and a Friday on Zoom. It is led by Dr. Susan McGrath. And on those Zoom calls, we address housing issues for individuals that are transitioning back into our communities and finding ways in which we could assist them through the transitional process. On Fridays, we are an action group. We really focus on lending support and finding solutions to address this population that really and truly nobody wants to talk about and no one wants to deal with. But you see, God strategically places us in places to lend and break those cycles. So not only am I able to provide you with parenting classes, provide counseling to the children that are left behind, but now we also lend assistance in terms of transitioning you back into our community. I work at Human Services, so I lend them support by ensuring that when they're leaving the Bureau of Correction, they're provided with supplemental nutrition assistant program, medical assistant program, and I'm an influencer for VIA, so I'm also able to transition them and help them getting a phone with the new program that they have, the government assistant program for phones. And even before they leave, they're taught, it's a 12-week program and it's labor intensive. They work on what we call a reentry plan, where we focus. Today's class is going to be on budgeting and finances, so that they're better prepared to meet the challenges of re-entering back into our community. They're not going anywhere. They're coming right back out. And when they come back out, are you ready to accept them as contributing members of our community? Our community is a community of second chances, and we have to provide them with that opportunity of second chance. And if not us, then who? These are your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your children, your brothers, your daughters and your sons. If not you, then who? Right? So in speaking to the team over at the Bureau of Corrections, I said, I'm doing this presentation at Rotary, and what are our necessities in terms of lending support to the individuals that are transitioning? And they said, one of our biggest challenges is really having a list of business owners that do believe in second chances. That's one. My second item on the list was wheelchairs, because we do have individuals with special needs that are in prison. And unfortunately, wheelchairs are not as accessible as you think, okay? Even right here in our territory. And then the third list item was transitional clothing. You have clothes that fit, and sometimes you want to get rid of clothing. Individuals who have sometimes served a long sentence and are now getting ready to be released, the clothes that they went in with might not necessarily fit and or outdated. So before you throw them out, think about that, okay? And so it is with an open heart that I come to you today, and I ask you to really think about the opportunity that the Rotary has to partner and to make a difference in our communities, to those that, they have, they are offenders. Yeah, they've made some mistakes in the past. And yes, they're not perfect. And neither are you. None of us are. But we are a community, again, of second chances. And it's up to us to really kind of dig our heels deep and kind of take personal inventory and ask ourselves, how is it that we're going to create a difference? So I kind of looked at your motto as I was sitting there. Hope. You're the hope for them. So if you're hope, then I'm counting on that hope. Right? This is our Parenting Inside Out certificate ceremony event. This is our third cycle, so I have a group that's getting ready to graduate on February 22nd. Right? And I can't wait, because what I do is that I place them in caps and gowns, because a lot of these individuals have never graduated from junior high or high school. And it's with pride then I place them in their caps and gowns. And yes, we do play pomps and circumstances, Dr. Wilkins. And I have them march with pride, because you'd be surprised what that does to the psyche of an individual, okay? And so the program has gone so well here on St. Thomas that they say, no, we want to have it on St. Croix, right? So now we're expanding the program to St. Croix, and those classes start March 4th. And on St. Croix, we're focusing on the detainees. And the reason why we're focusing on the detainees is because St. Thomas is a detention center, and we have over 162 detainees, and they hold them there until they're sentenced, and once they're sentenced, then they're transferred over to St. Croix or send them off to other, correctional facilities on the mainland. But the ones over on St. Croix that have already been sentenced are often involved in other educational programs. Because what you might not know is that at the Bureau of Corrections, they're also taking classes. Again, part of the Reentry group and the Reentry program is also providing classes with Penn Foster, so that when they leave, they're better equipped with an education. Some of them have even completed their associate's degree. Okay, last year, during this summer, our last graduation was held at Government House. And we had one student that had completed his associate's degree. And that was really a great reward for us. It was really nice to see that happen. So I come to you today with a spirit of giving and a spirit of, we are a community of hope and a community of second chances, as I made it emphatically clear, that our community really needs to stop the bleeding. We are just as responsible of what they become or what they might not be. The choice is yours. Any questions?
Actually,
Yes, Dr. Wilkins.
Dr. Burke, I'm so proud of you. What age group, the age group that you have to deal with most? Which young teenagers, middle teenagers, 20s?
I have right now 18 to 24 for the most part, and that's the sad part. 18 to 24, and most of my offenders are for gun-related charges. 18 to 24. And we also have women, so if you think that women are not there, we do have mothers that are there.
wow.
Okay? Yes.
How, is everyone that goes into prison required to go through some kind of educational?
No, that's something, if it's individualized, if the person wants to be part of it, then yeah. And right now, we have also partnered with the Department of Justice through the Access and Visitation program. They fund this program as well. And what they do is that if a parent owns child support, they're working in collaboration with DOC along with the Reentry group and us, so that those individuals that participate could also get credit for that. At least they're doing something. The parenting classes, but you're in jail. You can't collect child support because you're in jail, but that clock is still ticking. So they're working that out right now with the Department of Justice to kind of see how they could waive those outstanding child support fees. Yes, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for your presentation. Very moving. If you do have clothes you wish to donate, what would you, where would you take
I came prepared, right? So I have a sheet. You can just go on ahead and I'm gonna give this to you. You can put your information there and I will gladly be able to pick it up, make arrangements.
Okay, second question. Have you ever considered becoming a Rotarian? Because I like how you are concerned with the community.
I've never really even thought about it because no one ever approached me. And I've been steeped in this community for over He was my teacher, so I've been here for like 9 years.
That's something to consider.
Right.
How can Rotary help your organization?
I would believe that, again, as I mentioned, we sometimes look for guest speakers. I would think that on the front end, those needed items, it's very cold. The Bureau of Corrections keeps the temperatures really cold for 2 reasons. Number one, to kill bacteria. You have to keep it at a certain temperature. And secondly, it's a lot of research behind it. When the temperature's really cold, inmates are less likely to get themselves into physical altercation. So there's a tendency of needs of socks, underwears, things of that magnitude, undershirts, even hoodies, but hoodies, you can't have a hood, but sweatshirts you can. So any of those kind of donations, toiletries. The sad part is if you don't have family members to put money in your commissary, then you can't buy real toiletries.
Mm-hmm.
I always have a question that always bothers me. You talk about the success of some of your students getting AA and all of that. At what point, when these youngsters return to the community and start working, at what point the record is taken away?
Expunged?
Right.
Okay, it depends on the charge.
Oh,
It depends on the charge. Like right now, there's a marijuana charge. There's working closely, that this attorney is part of the Reentry program. If it's a marijuana charge, they're working on expunging those.
okay.
But if it's something like homicide, then that's not something that is going to be expunged. And this is why I keep asking a community of second chances, how many businesses would be able to provide a job to individuals with that kind of infraction?
How many persons are in the program right now?
Every cycle we kind of take, because it's more of a counseling setting, it's anywhere between 10 to 15. And we, here on St. Thomas, we have the women's group separate from the men's group. On St. Croix, it's a blended group.
And is that like each semester, a quarter, or you do this yearly?
It is every 12 weeks. The courses go for 12-week cycle.
And how many people would you say per year go through the program?
Last year we started, we had a total of 48.
So yearly, on average, you have about 48?
Right.
It's filled every time that you have?
It's filled every time, and what's so good about it, because it's word of mouth. And what I love about it is that they themselves refer a friend, that kind of a way. And also educational programs that they complete is time taken consideration off as well. So it's, it works in their favor. I think at least 3 months of taking off the funds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you so much for being here. This is just amazing what you're doing. For those that are in your program, do you all track them once they come out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's part of the proposal that I wrote. It was more wraparound program, not just for them, but wraparound programs for the family and the children as well. And so when they're released with a release letter, and they come to me, and so I assist them as best as I can, with those transitional services that are needed. Whether it is, let me register you on View for your job, let me make sure that you have, the supplemental services that are within your reach, even with driver's license, a motor vehicle, whatever, a lot of them might have IDs, some of them don't, and what we try to do is with that reentry plan, check off what you need, check off what you still don't need, and the case manager will work along with them over at the Bureau to make sure that when they leave, at least we have a plan.
Yeah.
Last week, because again, our graduation is the 22nd, that's your project. You can't march unless you give me my reentry plan, straight up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I guess I'd just like to say, listening to this, there's so much that we can easily take for granted, because I didn't realize, I know we have a prison, but not, having somewhere to go, having a job, having an education, having a driver's license, and a phone. Like, these things are just not going to appear out of nowhere. And so to have a program like this to be able to make a way to do that, I think this is amazing.
And the good thing is that, it's connecting the dots, and, I don't believe in coincidences, and God strategically placed me, and it took me 4 years knocking on that door. From the time they appointed the director, I wanted to do that, and 4 years knocking, but I partnered with my alma mater, I partnered with the Department of Justice, and that collaboration, we cannot work in silence. And that collaboration really led us to be able to render those type of services at the Bureau of Corrections.
Wow.
Yes,
Thank you. Excellent presentation.
you're welcome.
Is there a dollar amount that you potentially have in mind that would be beneficial to getting you going to be able to achieve some of the items that you mentioned per cohort, potentially? Like 10 to 15 individuals, on average, folks need X things. If you can figure out a dollar amount, then,
Let me give you an example. Virtual calls for 20 minutes, we'll run them probably around $15.
to whom?
To call their,
Not mean, like, who's charging that?
that's what it costs you at the Bureau of Correction.
Okay.
You wanna reach your family, and you wanna see your children,
Okay.
that's how
That's
much
what
it's
it
gonna
costs.
cost you, right?
Per
Okay,
person.
And if you're working, you get paid $2 a day. Right? Granola bar is $2. Pair of socks, how much is that a king? Right? That's, so I don't like to put a dollar amount really and truly, because the truth of the matter is, it's a blank statement. It's, for me, it's a matter of, for me to say, let me give a figure, is limiting God.
The reason I ask is because if like a standard kit could be developed, and say this club is willing to create a kit,
Okay,
and all entrants into this program would receive a kit.
all right,
And
I
the kit
received
would
that,
cost-
and
yeah.
what I could do is I'll get back to you on that, okay, cause I don't wanna limit and just give you a random number, but I will definitely get back to you on that.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
kind of what can go into that kit, what would be needed in that
Yes,
kit.
because I'm gonna share with you, my first cycle, I ended up buying spiral notebooks, right? Because I like for them to journal, because I think writing is cathartic, right? Well, only to find out, well, no, miss, you can't have that, because the spiral notebooks have spirals, and they could use that as a weapon, even to the dissemination of pens, right? So I learned, teaching moment for me. Oh, okay, all right. So it's those kind of nuances that as you grow as you go along. I've learned as much from them as they have learned from me. It has been the most rewarding experience. I mean, I've worked projects all along. I remember working one of my first programs that I designed was Second Chance with alternative youth programs. They were high risk, but for me, this has been one of the richest, rewarding experiences of my life thus far. And it's because you watch the transformation, you watch them actually feel that sense of remorse. One of the classes that we have to address is that of remorse. You've taken a life. Did you ever think about how the other family member felt? I'm one that my husband died, murdered. And my children, my daughter argues with me all the time. She says, I don't know how you could go in there. I mean, I don't feel no kind of way. You know why? Because my father died, and here you are, you're being sympathetic to these people. People are people. right? So we have to tackle that every cycle, we have to address that class on remorse. And I would never forget cycle 2, when we tackle remorse, and one of them said to me, I didn't feel remorse. It was his life or mine. And as we continue to peel that onion, you get to the root of the problem, and that person, I watch with these own eyes, this man, young man, bob like a baby. Because when you really get to the root of the problem, this didn't start just so you know. Is the family dynamics that leads to these young males being locked up right there. So, it starts from young. I've watched it start from young. Dr. Wilkinson could share with you, because when I was teaching 7th and 8th grade science, he used to come and I could prepare a dynamic lesson. I used to feel like I was missing something. That led me to go back and become a school psychologist, because I knew I was missing something. And then, as I began to really put theory to practice, family, we have sometimes 3, right now we're dealing with one case of 4 generations of the same thing. 4 generations of the same thing. When do we change it? So.
You know, it's really interesting as I'm sitting here listening to you. I just experienced and just thinking about how, you know, we categorize people, and this group of people need help, or we can help them, but this group, oh, we can't help them. We're all human. I have a family in Ghana that's in crisis right now, and it's the same situation, because they are not of a certain class. I'm having to fight a little harder to get the help that they need.
Well, I thank you so very much for your time.
The clothing list, if you want this.
Thank you.